So I want to also now at this point bring out another pair of camp mocks that are similar, but in many ways very different from the quaddies. These are also purchased on eBay. These quaddies are they're probably no more than 5 years old. This is very much a current manufacture. These are currently available from Quoddy, and um, this is absolutely a contemporary manufacture that's still available. These, on the other hand, are vintage Orvis made by Gokey Footwear. Um, Gokey is in Missouri, and they, for many years, were owned by Orvis, the Pacific Northwest Hunting and Fishing Company, which recently is undergoing a major restructuring. They're closing most of their outlets, their retail stores, and they're completely refocusing their brand, supposedly back to their roots. But for many years, they owned Gokey. Gokey is another old U.S. made, very storied, much more than 100-year-old shoe company that also hand sews moccasins and make moccasin type boots, as well as a wide variety of footwear and other leather goods. 25 years ago, approximately, Orvis sold Gokey to a tack and saddle company, which has kept the Gokey tradition alive. They've kept their manufacturing in the U.S. and continue to make a terrific product. These, however, are vintage. These have got to be at least, I would guess these are 40 to 50 years old. These have seen some wear, and I would guess from the 70s, maybe the 80s, but they're built very differently from the quaddies. They are built like a battleship. I would say they're a good, I bet they're twice as heavy. These are quite simple in construction. They're a simple moccasin construction where the leather goes all the way under and then is hand sewn on the top. Um, there is rubber sole, the moccasin leather, and then an insole. So they're simple. You're going to feel the ground. You're going to have a good connection to the ground that you're walking on with these quaddies. The the Gokies, on the other hand, are built like a dress shoe. They have lots of structure. They have nice arch support. Um, let me just have a closer look at the inside of them. You can see the arch support there on the insole. Um, because they are built like a shoe. They are built with an outsole, a leather midsole that it's stitched to, and then all of that then is stitched to the upper. And the upper is double layer. So this is what you see here, and then there's a second layer to give it just extra strength, extra support, extra structure, and extra weight. And this is Gokey's famous bull hide, which is from mature cows, obviously. Um, this is a very fine and beautiful cowhide. This stuff is thick. I mean, this is almost bridle leather thickness. And it's interesting that the fully lined, including the tongue, quaddies, the lining and the upper leather is less thick than the Gokey unlined bull leather. So this is super, super thick leather, and it's two layers. So you can just feel how thick it is. These are really bulletproof, and these are wonderful shoes too. I love these. They were considerably less expensive than the quaddies because they're old and they're worn a little bit, although there's absolutely no sign of significant wear to the uppers whatsoever. I mean, you will never wear these out. The leather will never wear out. It's just unbelievably strong. Overbuilt, I think, is the word that comes to mind. Where you do see the wear and the proof that these are vintage is on the soles. This is some kind of proprietary, very hard leather sole. It reminds me of that Goodyear, a pair of, I have a pair of boots with a Goodyear half sole, and the Goodyear half sole is very hard leather, similar to this. Very hard wearing, not a lot of cushioning, zero cushioning, I would say, but super, super strong. And you can see these have been worn and worn and worn for many years. There's a bit of wear on the heel. You can see where the heel has worn down. Of course, Gokey will resole these for a very reasonable price. I think it's under $100. And I may go that route someday. They do not make this sole anymore, so I'll probably just wear them with this sole and enjoy the way they were originally imagined and the way they were originally built back in the 70s or 80s. But the time may come when they get a new pair of soles. Of course, they don't make these soles anymore at all. They have something, they actually don't have a black one anymore. They're a much lighter brown sole. They look good though, and I'm sure they're excellent and they'll come back, in good shape. So that's a nice thing about the Gokeys is that they're completely resolable and probably could be resold many times. So these are really a buy it for life item. Same with the Quaddies. Quoddy will also resole these. So they're both buy it for life quality, in my opinion. Now, the other difference is that these Quaddies have the pebbled leather, which is, it follows the LL Bean design. LL Bean sells a moccasin, as I've said, that's very similar to these that are slip-on. Their slip-ons have pebbled leather. They also sell a more boat shoe type of camp mock with the two eyelets. That is on with the smooth leather. So that's just the way LL Bean always made them. You could tell that if it had the pebble leather, it was going to be the slip-ons with just the bow. And if it had the two eyelets, it was going to be the smooth leather. And for some reason, that was the way they distinguished their brand, the two models of, they're both really camp mocks. And so the pebbled leather, as you can see, in a way, it's pre-broken in. There's very little. In fact, I don't see any creasing at all. Very, very subtle, if at all, creasing. And I haven't done anything to these. I haven't put any conditioner on them. I think they need a nice coat of Bic 4. I'll eventually put a nice, something very non-invasive, something that's going to maintain the color, something very mellow and mild. And I like Bic 4 for that. But that's the advantage of a pebbled finish is that they really don't develop visible creases. You can see the creases there, but boy, they just follow the pebbling, as opposed to these, which have been worn only a fraction of the amount that these Gokeys have been worn, and they have um, some noticeable creasing. I would say the beginning of creasing, which happens almost immediately. I mean, virtually the first time you wear them, you're going to start to develop creases, and that's what you want, and that's the look that gives leather the natural feel, which we all love. So anyway, that's the comparison between the Gokeys and the Quaddies. I don't know which. I can't say that I recommend one over the other. I still love these Gokeys because they are built because they're built like a dress shoe with the high arch, plenty of support. They don't hardly bend at all. They've got a steel shank, I'm sure. These are probably a more comfortable shoe for around town and for walking in. You're not going to have much feel of the ground. You're not going to have that connection to the soil, to the forest floor, um, to the terrain that you would have with these. These are you're going to feel more connected to the terrain with these Quaddies, and these Quaddies are really a much more typical style. They're very similar to the LL Bean, except they're They're hand sewn in the USA, and they're fully lined, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So I would say that if you are on a budget, get the LL Bean ones. If you are interested in a more buy it for life product, again, you'll never need to buy another pair of these. I've bought several pair of the Bean ones. They wear out. They're probably not worth resoling. Quoddy is a great choice. Raincourt makes a very similar product, also a great choice. Both made in Lewiston, Maine, both hand sewn in the USA. The Gokey is really a different shoe entirely. It's unique, and I think they're great too. It's just a matter of what you like better. If you want a more structured shoe, if you want something with a more shoe-like, I mean, really, these are built like a pair of Alden loafers. You know, they're a loafer built in the style of a really super rugged, overbuilt camp mock. These are a good choice if you want a more shoe-like product. These are more the classic camp mock in that they have a thin sole that you're going to feel more connected to the ground. Both are great, great products. I will say that I was a little disappointed in the Gokies because they are stretched out, and I totally expect that these do stretch. And so that's the advantage of buying a newer or almost new pair is that you're going to get them. The factory knows how big to make them given the inevitable stretch. These are both true to size. I wear an 11 and a half D. These are both 11 and a half Ds. And you can tell these things fit like a glove right out of the box. These are almost brand new. They have not begun to stretch yet, and they are super, super comfortable. I've had them on once, walked around the house, and these are going to be the most comfortable shoes I owned. The Gokies are a little overstretched. Um, they are a little bit sloppier in the heel because they've been worn and worn and they stretch and stretch. And it was probably somebody with a little bit wider foot, but not necessarily. They do stretch out and they stretch to fit somebody's feet that weren't mine. That's fine. I don't have an aversion to used shoes. I don't find them gross. Some people probably think they're gross. I will note that even though these have been worn a lot and are probably 40 years old, they didn't smell at all. They smelled like nice fresh leather. Obviously, it wasn't anybody that ruined them by wearing them barefoot. So these were well cared for. They're just older. I am thinking that what I will do is you can buy a tongue pad. There's some very nice ones that you can buy. You can buy them on Amazon has them, and I think Grant Stone also sells the same ones that Amazon sells on their website. And it sticks on the inside of the tongue. It goes down they're about that big. So it goes a ways down and it just takes up some of that interior room. And I think I'm going to get a pair of those, put them in these, tighten them up a little bit. I did tighten the leather around, this leather shoelace that goes all the way around. And you can see it's begun to pucker because I cinched it down as much as I possibly could. And that's the only adjustment that you have to them. And they're as small as they're going to be. They're still a little bit too big. Again, totally to be expected. The price reflected that, and I'm still super happy with them. But I am going to need to do bit of a little bit of surgery with the putting in the tongue inserts to make them fit. These, on the other hand, are just that little bit of snug that you want, and these are going to form to my fit beautifully. So, thank you very much. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the content,